In the van. Here we go. It's freezing, by the way. So, hope you can see me over the disc lock. People I've met. Little series. Yesterday I talked about Mac. So today, a couple of lads. Before I start, recently a lad walked out of magistrate's court. He was 18. He'd attacked a policewoman. She had to have her head shaved in order for her wounds to be treated. She had physical dints, cuts, stitches to her head. He walked away with probation, no prison sentence. Assaulting a police officer. Magistrate's court. Why am I telling you that? I'll tell you why I'm telling you that. Let's just move over here, guys. Yeah, let's take the middle ground. There you go. That's better. So why am I telling you that? Me more than anyone, you know, victims of crime, people need to go to prison. For me, people who are mentally unwell and things like that, the court process, criminal justice system doesn't work. It's like stating the obvious. Give you a few examples. People we had on healthcare. We had a guy who was getting on and early onset dementia. His crimes were nothing, no violence, nothing like that. Ended up in prison. So I'm thinking, if that guy had gone to magistrate's court, you know, who's making that decision? Send someone early onset dementia to prison. We've also had people with brain damage. I know why they're sent to prison. Places in brain injury units are few and far between. So if someone's accused of a crime, send them to prison. Don't mind they've got brain damage. Keep the public safe by keeping them locked up. We had a stroke victim in his 20s. I've talked about him before. Again, you know, the guy has a stroke. His behaviour changes because of the stroke. And he ends up in prison. Again, who is sending someone who's had a stroke, behaviour's changed, to prison? That's not the place for him. You know, what we're doing is sending them to prison or waiting to go other places for treatment. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to tell you about these two guys. They were ill. They had a condition, Huntington's chorea. Condition, disease, whatever you might call it. Anyone who's medically qualified, please forgive me. I'm talking in layman's terms now. I'm talking about two prisoners we had on healthcare. The first one, Matthew, when I first went on healthcare, was on there. Angry young man, 26. He looked a lot older. He looked stressed. He was very shouty and aggressive. Not assaultative. That is one of my words, assaultative, but you know what I mean. The nurses used to look after him, help him with his care needs. He won't get showered and clean himself or change his clothes or his bedding if not forced to by the nurses, not physically forced. Encouragement. He was unsteady on his feet. Poor memory. It affects your muscles and that as well. He had the shakes. Almost like dementia, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's all rolled into one. Terrible, terrible illness, disease, condition. And he was in prison. He was in for something and nothing. His offence was related to his behaviour. You know, someone who's aggressive. This is why I was talking about somebody who's 18, walking out of magistrate's court, who has assaulted a female police officer, leaving her requiring stitches in her head and a hair shaving off in order to treat those. You know, no time in prison. This guy, Matthew, who's dying, it kills you. It affects young people, not usually that young, but Matthew, you know, he more one at nurses. I remember telling me, you know, he's not long for this world, maybe 12 months. and some of that time in prison. He'll be dead, well dead now. Michael, another lad. He came on a little after Matthew. Can't remember what happened to Matthew. Can't remember whether he went to a home or something like that. Michael was 30, a little bit older, unkempt when he came to healthcare. He got restrained in reception. Again, no understanding. The guy was confused. His memory was terrible. He had a family. He had a couple of kids, I believe. And again, his behaviour, because of the illness condition he got, Huntington's career deteriorated. People, again, I've used this word, become disinhibited. They don't know right from wrong. Anyway, he had a young daughter, so he landed on healthcare. He didn't understand why he was in prison. Again, you know, his behaviour had put him in prison, and his behaviour was caused by the disease, Huntington's career. Very confused young man. Again, he was more physically able than Matthew had been. Matthew was quite weak, even though he was angry. A couple of times Michael had to be put back behind his door when he was, you know, about to kick off or whatever. He wasn't offering or threatening staff, you know, physically. It's just he became agitated, didn't understand things, refused to do things. When he was put behind his door, it was appropriate use of force. What do I mean by that? He wasn't restrained. He wasn't taken to the floor. There weren't alarm bells. You know, once or twice I had to put him behind his door. The nursing staff asked me to because, you know, he'd gone for some medication and he was refusing to leave the hatch or something similar. So physically, get hold of the guy, put him behind his door. That is appropriate use of force. Very sadly, Michael missed his daughter a lot. So all he talked about, his young daughter, I think she was under 5. He was on his emergency cell bell. Cell bells on the healthcare, same as every other prison cell in this country, have an emergency cell bell, a button they can press to draw staff's attention, something's wrong. This was inappropriate use. He would press it 200 times a day. You would go to his cell. What's up, Michael? I want to speak to my daughter. I'm sorry, Michael, you can't do that. Okay. You go and sit on the bed. You turn away, walk back to the office. Before you got back to the office, he'd press his bell again, which required you to go back to his cell, reset it from the outside, and try and explain again. Shocking state of affairs. 2 lads, Huntington's career. Incidentally, Michael, when he became agitated, like I say, he wasn't quite as far gone as Matthew, although he was very confused and his memory was terrible. We would give him the Samaritans phone. What is the Samaritans? The Samaritans are an organisation that's set up. They train people, and I believe they have volunteers who are there 24 hours a day on the other end of a phone. So if someone is concerned about themselves or somebody else, you know, maybe you're suicidal, you can phone the Samaritans and there will always be somebody there. So now and again, we would give Michael the phone when he was agitated and he could speak to someone on the other end of the phone. Remember one day I come in, manager, Bradders, called me into the office. 2 lasses there. They explained who they were. They were from the Samaritans, and they asked that we refrain from giving Michael the phone. They'd had staff go sick. Staff didn't know how to deal with him. They were fed up of talking to him because he kept saying the same things over and over. He wanted to speak to his daughter. Very sad state of affairs. So that's Matthew and Michael, 2 people who were sent to prison. They were in prison because of their condition, illness, how it made them, behaviour, being disinhibited, aggressive. Very, very wrong. So there you go. Cheers. Thanks for coming.